Good evening. We've got our 2023 September 7th agenda review work session for the Town Council of Selma, North Carolina. We've got a few items to discuss today. I'm going to shoot off your screen.
Go right ahead.
We've got to start off and talk about a parking plan for our town hall parking lot, and we'll also venture to a parking discussion about the broader area around, particularly downtown Selma. We've got a road plan to discuss as far as not only paving, but street signs and other markings. We've got a council application process for the seat vacated by former Councilman Bruce McKay. We've got to discuss that process and how we're going to go through it. And we also need to have a discussion about our Historic Preservation Commission and how we're going to handle historic properties going forward. Then we actually still have to look at an agenda. And do we have any items for closed session? I don't believe we have a closed session, so good to go, and then we'll call it. So to start off, up on our screen, we've got an image of our town hall parking lot, and hopefully, there we go, I'll get it, give us an overview of what we're looking at. So this is the back side of Town Hall. And this is all the area behind Town Hall, behind all the shops, your Selma jewelry, your old-fashioned ice cream on this end, Pixie Dust over here, Surf and Turf down in this corner, but this is all the parking lot in between. The discussion that we have been having with business owners and we've had amongst ourselves, particularly as staff, is about renting out these parking spaces so that these business owners can have assigned parking spaces for their businesses, and we have assigned spaces for residents, and even some 2-hour parking so that we don't have people loitering in the parking lot too long, so that the businesses can make sure they have a steady churn of folks able to park and shop downtown Selma. So, from the brief discussions that I have personally had with business owners, I've put together a somewhat color-coded map to get a framework of what this would look like. Let me take some time to go through what exactly we have here, and then we'll begin to discuss. So, what we've got as a basic plan is each business gets 2 parking spaces, can get up to 2 parking spaces to rent. Each resident, each residential establishment, each apartment can get 1 space for parking. So here we've got, I believe this would be the general store business, and this is just preliminary. We're going to discuss further with each of the business owners, the residents, and make sure that this is okay for everybody. But this is for council to say, hey, this idea is something we're comfortable with, or if we need to go in a different direction. General store, appliance boot camp, old-fashioned ice cream. These would be residential parking spaces. 2 for the 2 apartments that are above the general store. You've got customer service parking for the town of Selma. So these are customers of town of Selma, paying bills, so on and so forth. You've got, I believe this would be HTR parking right here. I believe you would have Selma jewelry parking right here, and I believe we've got Ms. Kim Wooten here. Is that decent area for you?
And I just wanna say, like, I'm fine, like, I'm gonna put on my sign or whatever, like, just till 6 o'clock. Like, once we have restaurants, we can park in our parking spaces, as long as they're gone by the time I open at 10 o'clock the next morning, I'm fine with that.
And
I
that
want
is,
it to be as easy for everyone as possible.
and I think that's something we'll make as a request as part of agreements, is that your business hours need to be when you're utilizing those spaces if you're renting them for business hours. So we very much appreciate that. That's excellent. And then let's see, we got a little further down. So these would be 2 spaces related to one of the establishments that are within this B2B project. I do believe there's actually 2 establishments that are set up to go in there, but I think the request right now is only for 2 spaces related to that entire project. This, I'm thinking, would be 30-minute parking. So if you're coming in to pick up something real quick, you still have those extra spaces if there isn't space at the established spaces to come in, pop in real quick, park for 30 minutes, get out. These are 7 spaces related to the 7 apartments in that B2B project. Right here, so there are 7 apartments above, 7 spaces. These light green areas, 2-hour parking. So for your folks that wanna come and park and shop, this is 2-hour parking through here. These are Town of Selma employee parking on this backside right here, which we would definitely change. I do believe there's far too much employee parking over here currently. But this would be your Town of Selma employee parking. And then if Surf and Turf is interested in a couple of spaces over here. And then this would be parking for employees of the downtown area. So if you work in downtown, you can park there, and then I left a little blank space just in case we need to make some other considerations as well. But that's the general overview right now. Thoughts? What do we need to adjust? What might be the problems? What might we run into that we need to talk about? So, are we okay with putting that in agreement if we do rent those spaces out, that your business hours need to be related to that parking?
You see that in other places.
That's right.
I mean, clearly, any of the apartments on the other side, they're parked, some of the other side, none of them are on this side.
Which ones now?
Let's say the corner building
You talking about here?
on across the street on Main Road.
Oh, no, that is not in this
Okay,
conversation.
right.
So,
I only made that clear.
absolutely, so only businesses, only apartments that abut, the building abuts this parking lot are in this conversation. If you have a business, say, across the street over here, you are not in this conversation. We would not be renting spaces to you, okay? What else?
So can, we still have access to the alley back here as well,
Which one?
behind us,
Behind the jungle?
yeah,
Yeah, well,
in case the park has an overflow parking.
well,
I know our plans where they go eventually be at, but.
Well, unfortunately, the only space behind here that belongs to Town of Selma is just where the dumpsters are.
Okay.
So there's not, the rest of the space is privately owned property.
Okay.
But of course, we do also need to discuss the parking lot behind KS Bank at ADC as well. That is our parking lot.
Yes.
And then we have a few other areas we need to discuss as well.
Yeah, that needs to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mayor, with this, Mayor, with this, with the signage out,
mhm.
would there be a need for no overnight parking?
Yeah,
No overnight parking unless, otherwise, but, because I mean, you will have overnight parking, obviously, especially if you're renting to some.
the 2-hour spaces, because the 2-hour spaces, we'd probably limit that to a certain time. So we'd say 8 to whatever business hours we decide for the 2-hour parking, because in the evening, you wanna relax on the 2-hour parking. Especially, people coming out here for Rockin' on Rayford, something like that.
I think the chief's concern though was the overnight.
So yes,
An RV out there or something.
the answer is yes, because we still don't want you leaving your trailer overnight in our parking lot. So, realistically, once we get past an event and it's 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, from 12 to 5:30, don't have you messing our parking lot. Not unless you're paying rent. So yeah, we do need no overnight parking. And with that, PD, we do need to discuss making sure that when we get to a point of instituting this, that we have our patrol understand that we need to be aggressive about folks not doing as they're supposed to do in our lots, because parking is about to become premium. And if we can't actually enforce any of the stuff we're putting in, it's a waste of our time, okay? So with that being said, we do probably need some input from you guys on how soon we could actually move on this, because we don't want anybody to ever get the idea that we're not going to enforce this, okay?
Do I want to ask a question, Mayor?
Yes.
Because you've got some of those spots that are being rented by, for example, B2B, are we gonna have to
Well, I would say, for me, when I, had a condo and I parked in my spot, if I came home and somebody's parked in my spot, I'd make a phone call.
I agree,
Yeah.
I agree.
So, you know, it's, for the people with rented spots, they are responsible for enforcing their stuff.
Right.
We're not worried about enforcing their stuff.
It's happened to me, and you just pick up the phone and you make a phone call.
That's right,
Gotcha.
that's right.
But Mayor, we talked about, any definition of the possibility of having a, contract with the utility company versus them having to control that area and say, this is it or not, having to have a lot of other fault tolerance.
Right.
Where else?
I think it's a great idea, absolutely.
You do your signage, are you gonna have anything that says vehicle will be coded owner's expense?
Yes.
That way the owner's responsible for paying it, not the town, or the vehicle code.
We have that?
We'll probably post like one sign each in the parking lot, so we won't have so much clutter on the sign.
Mhm.
But we'll have it posted so it is there, but not at not on each sign probably.
Right. So vehicle towed at owner's
If
expense.
we can't locate the owner of the vehicle, there's gonna be times where we can't locate and we're gonna enforce it. Obviously, we're in it.
Well, I would say don't worry about trying to locate the owner of the vehicle, to be honest with you. You know, we are incredibly kind here in the town of Selma, I'll be honest with you. And I really think we need to back off on that kindness. If you put the little chalk mark on their tire at 1:30 and they're still there at 3:45, tow 'em.
That's another position that we just don't wanna pay for, you tell them.
Yeah, and just don't even worry about trying to send somebody after them. That's on our dime to worry about them not being able to tell time. Yes, sir.
So the Main Street is 12 o'clock on this,
You talk about on the street?
yeah, Main Street.
No,
Nope.
not yet. But let's actually do touch base on that. Do we think, in fact, let me ask our business owners, do we think at any point in time we need to start looking into 2-hour parking on the street? Or do we think we're good right now?
My comment would be, I would like for a letter to go out to the business owners.
Wait. Question first. 2-hour parking on the street, Rayford Street, and even on Anderson Street. Well, we probably can't do Anderson because it's state road.
State road.
So on Rayford Street, do we think we need to get toward 2-hour parking?
Yes.
Yes?
I think so.
Okay.
That answers my other question, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. So 2-hour parking on Rayford, and of course, before we do any of this, all of this is going to go to the business owners as well. Because we're gonna give this exact map to everybody and say, look over it, tell us about your concerns. We're not gonna spring this on anybody, okay? So,
And
yes, ma'am.
like for the Rudy, like I'm not down at that end of Rayford, right, just up where like I am and then south, like where shops are.
You talking about for 2-hour parking?
Yeah,
Just the start of the
Rudy show runs 3 hours.
yeah, so they would need to be able to park longer, maybe from like Christina down, it's not enforced so much, but the two
We'll,
blocks with the most businesses.
we'll look over that carefully. We're not going to institute that as soon as we institute this. We're gonna consider how much parking we need and then have a discussion about how much more parking we need to figure out. But, you know, right now, my imagination tells me that we're talking about from, general store down to, matter of record. That's what I'm thinking right now. I don't think we're talking that far yet.
We'll try to get some signage up to, we got the new parking lot over at the library. That's, being there, we didn't already use that much, we got new parking.
Used yesterday.
The library.
Yes, people are parking newly.
Maybe leave some of our
We
street
need
lights.
signs there,
I
but like,
didn't know
I
what was
come here every day and didn't know that that was available for everyone. I didn't know someone, you know what I mean? So,
Need some long, strong.
that's not,
Parking signs.
It still hasn't
For
cured.
me, super
It's not fully cured.
that's a good start.
Well, why is it open? Why don't they have a parking
We don't get
over
the
there?
I don't think it's bad necessarily, but they're not really bad people
Just
right
have to
all
walk
the
back
time.
and walk.
And I'm surprised people.
And you always got the overflow at the schoolhouse at night.
It's about the elementary school. Yeah. Well, and going back to the conversation about parking at the Rudy and all that stuff, we are going to have to long-term have a conversation about cones and all that good stuff too. Because these folks, you know, particularly on Webb Street near the Civic Center, are getting a little squirrely with with cones. And so, you know, once we tell one person no cones in the street, that means everybody no cones in the street. So we're going to, first of all, part of this discussion, look at all the parking lots around and discuss how they can be utilized to handle all the traffic we hopefully will see all the time in the town of Selma. So are we okay to disseminate this to business owners?
I'm good.
Are we okay to disseminate this to business owners? Does this look like a good deal?
Good start.
Excellent, excellent,
Will
excellent.
there be a, I mean, I guess, like, will there be a rule, like if I have two spaces, I don't plan on using my two spaces, I want my spaces to be for my customers.
Mm-hmm.
But all business owners may not feel the same, they may be using it themselves, but if so like, once I close, I have to move my vehicle, right? Even if I'm renting the space.
No, what I would say is if you truly, for your spaces, if you wanna use your spaces 24/7, you can. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, even though you put those hours on your sign, you are paying for those spaces. So just like the people that would be parking at their living space, we're not gonna tell them they have to move. If you're paying rent on a space, you use it as you please. If you are kind enough to us to put your hours on there and then be out of it whenever you feel like getting out of it, we just love you for it, we appreciate it. All right?
So before you go there, we need to identify those signs too, that are random signs, so the police wouldn't have to worry about.
Oh,
are they
yeah,
right place
so
or wrong
we're gonna put poles all the way down.
Yeah.
And then the businesses that are renting the spaces will be responsible for producing the signage.
place? Okay.
Yeah, but we'll put the poles in. We don't have any heartburn about putting poles in.
So the only thing I was trying to
Just
say,
like the ones that,
the only thing I was trying to say, we need to clarify so they know who to tag and pull, it needs to be towed, right? And not really towed a business owner. That's
So,
what you're saying now.
so what I'm saying is if a business owner has a space, it'll be their responsibility to call PD, call a towing company, call whoever to move a vehicle out of their space.
Okay.
So the only thing that our PD would be worried about as far as on the town side would be 2-hour parking and 30-minute parking. Everything else
That help?
everything else is up to the business owners to be concerned with the spaces they are renting.
Cause they're paying for
They're paying.
I'm fine
That's
with
right.
that.
That's right. Let's see. Did we lose the screen? Oh. Oh, no, I do actually wanna go back to Google, cause I'm gonna play with the map here. Throw that back up. Yeah, that's perfect. There you go. Yep, and so we're actually gonna look at the Google map and look at the rest of the parking spaces as well. Let's see, map. Boom, look at that beautiful, beautiful cell. Absolutely beautiful. All right. So, overall, and let me make sure staff certainly correct me if I have no idea what I'm talking about, but this is town parking, correct? I think the animal hospital might have 2 spaces back there, possibly.
I don't know if they're owned by them, I don't think that answer if they're owned.
Okay.
I think they're marked.
Yeah, they are marked, but I don't know if the survey says. Yeah. So we'll check on, let's check on that before we, go too far into these discussions, but this entire parking lot can also be utilized as the town sees fit. So we need to, as we're talking about, businesses having events around here, particularly we have still a conversation about an event space coming into downtown Selma. We also need to discuss how we wanna utilize the parking that we have. So we have this area to discuss. We've got, we will have, I believe, this area to discuss, and this is with after hours. We've got the new parking beside the library to discuss. Is there anything else in the area?
Right beside that, keep coming down a little bit,
Ah,
right.
This-
Yeah, still dirt in that picture, but that's correct.
this area to discuss as well.
Yes, sir.
And then we also need to get a general idea of how much more space we think is needed to accommodate what we foresee coming in the future. So, let's just talk about hypothetical here. There is a conversation on the table about, in fact, let's go with what we've already seen. There was a conversation about, what is it, wedding venue, event space, at one point right here. So we're talking about bringing, 150 people to park in the historic downtown area at a clip. At a glance, I would say we still don't have enough parking to accommodate such a thing.
Especially when you think about how many times it's not gonna be the only thing in town. You got a Rudy show at a civic center.
Right.
Plus, event space. Plus 3 or 4 restaurants with just daily traffic.
Yes.
So I think probably the course of action then is to gather ourselves a worst-case scenario first. We need to take account of the inventory that we have and then figure out what we need.
Make sure that we solidify everything that is ours, because a lot of people don't know about behind the ABC store.
Right through here.
And for pet's sake, when I had my animals, I peeled right into that parking lot and got George and Curly Sue out, and we went in the back door because there were times when you couldn't find parking on Rayford.
And wouldn't even think this was town.
I did not know that that
It's
was
it's
town.
marked as public parking, but it's not marked as town center.
And then there's the question of, is at any point in time would we wanna restrict the parking?
You got a lot of employees now, they're using that, not our, just business workers. KS Bank, that's their only parking.
Right.
ABC store, there's 2 up there where you're at. Those 2 cars are always employees there. Yeah, I think Pet Safe is the same way.
Yeah, they park back there.
Okay.
But KS Bank legitimately does not have any street parking.
Right.
Around their building. And she has mentioned to me a couple different times, 4 of those spaces are theirs. I don't know if there's been a gentleman's agreement back in the day, but there's obviously nothing more or anything, so.
If it's not on the survey.
That needs to be addressed, to clear that up, first thing, and then, I hate to mention it, but I'm all about a crosswalk over there at the library. It's a very busy road, some people just absolutely don't know how to maneuver their vehicle, but if you utilize that library parking lot, say for the Rudy, or even the Civic Center, I think at some point you're gonna have to put a crosswalk right there on 301.
And that's a state conversation right there.
Okay.
Where do the buses park now?
I changed my schedule because Philip and I had a conversation a couple months ago, because of the activation on the street, but, I put cones right beside the building and across the street. Once I get the buses parked, I move the cone. So I changed my schedule, I put those cones out at 4 o'clock in the morning to try, because the street sweeper, if we don't know his schedule all the time, and if I did know that, I would make sure I didn't get the street sweeper.
But where do the buses park now? As far as,
The Rudy Theater,
they stay beside the Rudy Theater the entire time,
while the show's on.
while the show's on?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Alright, so, let's see where we're talking about.
And that's
So-
another thing, when the cones disappear, the buses are gonna have to find their own parking spot. They can try and make it easy for them and suggest places.
So we're gonna need to have a conversation about, how many buses at a clip, at a show?
We can have anywhere from 5 to 12.
5 to 12.
Well, nowadays, depends on what you count a bus. We've got buses with 15 to 25 passengers, some with 52. A lot of churches now are buying buses that hold 35. They are probably 35, 40 people.
Go up on that street.
So we do need to go ahead and get a bus parking plan in place, because again, at the end of the day, when we tell these folks that they can't put cones in the street, that's gonna be the same conversation for you. So,
Jeff, just prepare yourself, cause I mean, it's not gonna be really, it's not gonna be right on top of it.
but,
I didn't understand part of that.
so when we tell the folks on Webb Street, cause what happens now is they put cones in the street in front of their houses too, when the Civic Center has something
But
going.
they don't move them either.
Not the conversation. What I'm saying is cones are going to stop. That's not a question. That's a information. So we're gonna have to have a conversation about what we can utilize that's remotely in the area so that your buses can drop their folks off and actually park in the area and stay without being on the street. So that we can designate that parking lot to say, this is where the Rudy's buses are gonna be. So we've got, this is in proximity, and this is in proximity. Do you think if we had, say, 12 at the most,
I'm sorry.
12 at the most, would it get up to 15?
Now, Christmas, we could get up to
15. So we need to, the first conversation we need to have is 15 buses. Where could we tell them to go as a holding for a show and then come back? Because at the end of the day, when we do have this conversation about everybody piling into downtown Selma, that's not gonna work anymore.
Are you opposed to other street parking? I mean, obviously not there, but away from downtown on street parking.
I'm not, I mean, you're gonna have to go somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to
We're
it.
definitely not gonna have those 3 parking spots, especially a matinee show. Definitely won't have that kind of numbers in the parking lot.
Right.
So we'll have to find something else. Maybe we can work out some agreements with some other areas.
They took 2 months.
Well, the parking lot is across from the elementary school, over by the church, is owned by the church.
I was kinda thinking we make it work out some kind of agreement with some churches, and they didn't mind, cause most of these shows are not Sunday morning, Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening, when church is going on. So they might not be opposed to a joint venture there.
That's right.
I don't know, we'll look into it.
And of course, this isn't anything we're gonna do this year, because we'll get through the Christmas show. When do we have a lull for your shows?
January, February.
Oh, that's perfect, that's perfect. We need to get the information before we get to, March. Because I don't expect us to have too ridiculous an explosion before January.
So, before we get off the buses, if you're gonna drop and go, then we need to strap in front of the building, so that's for the unloading for you.
We probably do need to designate unloading space.
That corner.
Yeah.
Some space in that corner.
So we take out maybe 1 parking space?
Just so they can pull up over their door, have a
Yeah.
bigger space.
Yeah, and nobody can park there ever. What do you think?
It's the way it is
It
now.
might help the absence of that stoplight
Do
that
what?
we really need.
Yeah, you wouldn't have anybody parking there.
Remember, Jeff, you remember we had it striped before in the front of the building? If we used that as a drop and go?
I would welcome y'all to come on about 20 minutes before any show, kind of see how they come in.
Mhm.
But they kind of come in about 30 minutes per.
Mm-hmm.
And if, because they get from lunch to the show, and then, a lot of them pull up to the front door and unload. I got them around to the side of the building, let them park beside the building, so when they unload, these people can kind of walk right straight to the bus.
You mean when they're loading back up?
So we load back up, they're parked beside there, the driver keeping the,
And we would certainly, I mean, of course, the loading and unloading again, they would come back and they would just may have to wait a few minutes longer to load in. But again, there's no way as we actually start getting busy, we
But
can
it's
continue.
not be illegal to park beside the building, I just can't block it off.
Yeah, if the space is open, absolutely. You know, they can still leave the bus there if the space is open.
I just, out loud, I just like said, this has been at 25 years doing the same thing, and all of a sudden, it's kind of, I don't want special treatment, but
Well, you kinda nailed it on the head.
He really did.
Doing the same thing for 25 years has not done us well. And we have to actually think as a council about the future of our town actually being an actual busy town. Because again, I imagine Clayton had to make some real severe changes as they exploded out of their minds. I imagine New York City had some significant changes over the last 100 years, because parking your buggy next to the saloon was fine for a little while. It's not anymore. So what I'm saying is this isn't really a conversation about, hey, let's do anybody any favors. This is us saying, we've got to figure out what we can afford to do for everybody. Because I can't tell anybody else, well, the Rudy can do it and you can't.
Yeah, we can't keep things like 25 years. Things are progressing.
But, again, with the loading and unloading zone, so are we talking about the very front side of the building?
That's where it was before.
Okay.
I mean, we striped it off, the town even striped it off.
Well, let me ask you, how would you guys feel if you had loading and unloading not only across the front side, but across the side too?
You know, people are gonna stop no matter what you tell them. You know, if I break my leg, I'm gonna say, just stop right here and let me out.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't care really who's behind me, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get out of my car so I can go see a show.
Yeah. Well, and again, but I'm talking about for the buses.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, well, there,
She did that, she could have loaded two at a time, and loaded
Yeah.
two at a time, that'd be a trick to what they're doing now, versus them having to walk away down to their booth.
So if we put loading and unloading all the way across the front and then maybe down to the second spot, 2 buses at a time?
The length of the whole building would give me 3, 4,
Yeah, we're not doing that. Good try though. We're not doing that. So front and side would say 2 buses at a time. Are you guys comfortable with that? And again, the Rudy is a wonderful place and they have shows for a good portion of the year, but we have to think about all the folks that are gonna come into town. If we have the Civic Center rolling, if we have an event venue rolling, if we have, people that wanna come and eat at several restaurants all at the same time, we have to have an economy of scale for how these spaces are used. So, is everybody okay with the consideration of loading and unloading on the front side and the area around the side as well?
So, yeah, but Philip was gonna run off and figure out where he could repark if we didn't have room for him too, right? Okay.
Well, so the thing is the unloading and loading zone, they still wouldn't be parking.
Right, yeah.
you said the right thing. It's an unloading and loading zone.
Zone, that's right, that's right. So they would not be there the entire
They would know
time.
to come back at, 2:45.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong, Mr. Hamilton, you're correct. If there's nobody in those spaces and the bus wants to stay, first come, first served.
That's what I
All day
was
long.
gonna say. First come,
Yeah,
first
first
served.
come,
Park 50
first.
cars and then move the buses.
What's that now?
We'll work around it, you know, we're gonna make money if we work for it.
And if you have the time to park 10 cars there and then move them, God bless you.
So, more than anything, if y'all relate this to Spook's on, he owns the building, I don't own anything down there, I just kind of work for him. So I just think he needs to be included in whatever conversation y'all might do.
He'll get a nice letter.
Everybody will get a letter.
Everybody will get a letter. Yeah, everybody will. In fact, if Spook wants to come down and hang out with us, if he has some concerns, you tell him to come and hang out. But at the end of the day, we do need to consider where we can get extra space. And we do need to consider how many more spaces we're gonna need. So, I think the first thing is to figure out, particularly with the event space that they're talking about, I think over here with this project, see what size, how many people that venue would hold. What are the other venues that we need to consider? Well, you know, with the Civic Center, I don't wanna put the Civic Center into this conversation, cause the Civic Center's over there. And we need to deal with the Civic Center over there, you know. I wanna first give our business owners the opportunity to have people parking for their businesses before we worry about the Civic Center. So let's get an idea of what our business owners need for parking first. The Civic Center is an extra amenity that's supposed to help, not necessarily something we need to worry about first.
Definitely the spot at, for Pet's sake, the liquor store, that right there is although it's not that much parking, it's extra parking. And you could have directional signs, how to go through an alley, you know, through, Ron's place to get to Rayford Street.
Yeah. That's, of course, we're talking about restaurants here, so that'll be definitely. So, you know, at some point, we might even need to consider making a sign that points out, park here for shopping,
I went to
restaurants.
the, and some of y'all may have went, I went downtown Newburgh about 2 or 3 years ago, and they had that space where they closed the roads off. And we probably parked 3 or 4 blocks away, and that was the only parking there was.
Yeah.
Public parking space, busy tables.
It is, sometimes you'll ride around a few times, because I love Newbern, and you can't just pull up. You gotta search.
Painting on the wall with,
So,
you know,
Mhm.
things like that.
That's right.
If you go down Clayton, when they have the tree lighting, or go down, you go to Manor and try to eat, and you got a parade, you ride around almost like 100 spaces. You may be parking 5 or 6 blocks from,
You park in the residential town area, you go 2 streets over.
How many, hey, gang, pipe it down a little bit back there. How many times have we had the Rudy and the Civic Center having something at the same time? Do we know? How rough
it's
does
on
it
a
get as far as
Saturday night.
parking?
Everybody finds a place.
Right,
And that's why I think on Red Street, you know, they put a few cones out, so people don't block the driveway. But everybody seems to be, I get very few complaints about parking. People ask me, why do I have to?
you get few complaints, but you're also not on the town council. So, we get complaints all the time. That's why we're having this conversation. So,
I wanna take it a little further, since we're talking about, parking. Down towards the railroad, since that ends Rover. Railroad is, not ours, right?
So
The
we're
railroad
talking
track,
about down
by the
here.
tracks, yeah.
Is that ours?
It's, yes and no, it's in our right of way, we paved it, I think the railroad has the right to make it grass anytime they want to, so I don't think they ever will, but it is public parking, and we paved it.
Okay.
So I was thinking about if we park right in here, next to the track.
Yeah, and if you remember when Little Girl was open on Daddy, that was normal parking. It was never really the issue railroad, but at any time they could have put their signs up, just like we can.
Yeah, they
now.
could.
Yeah.
that's-
So we can't necessarily promote that
We
as,
can't promote it, but
Yeah.
we don't have to stop it.
okay.
And more importantly, we can't rely on it in the long term.
In the
We
long
have to go with what's definite.
Yeah, that's
And I
right.
understand that, that's why he pointed out that that's not really a free.
Yeah, not a freebie, really. Okay, so we do need to really get some numbers, first and foremost. Because again, particularly we got a brewery that we're looking at here, a couple of restaurants shortly. And that's gonna change the game significantly.
And March is probably a good time for, you mentioned the Rudy in March, February, March is probably about that time.
Yeah, this is what we call proactive thinking right here. Yes, sir.
The other thing I like to bring up is to speak with, Mr. Joyner, you know.
I'm not gonna speak with Mr. Joyner. Mr. Joyner can come to a meeting anytime he likes. So tell him I'll be here and he can come and chat, okay? And we'll send a letter to everybody as we're making changes so that everybody understands what we will be enforcing. But again, if anybody's got any concerns, this is why you come to these meetings.
Got on my topic was, the lot beside the Rudy is Mr. Joyner, so, eventually, maybe we can encourage him to do something better for the park.
God bless them. I love private industry taking care of themselves.
you want the bus still?
If he's, you say if he might do something with it, that's his business. If he wants to go out there and tear up the grass and it's within code, then he can make his own parking, right?
I would shy away from the town wanting to purchase that necessarily. I would, but.
Oh, I would too.
Yeah, that would be fantastic bus parking for a business though. That would be fantastic. Let's see. this is ours.
Okay, that's
That's the
what
town
I'm
to
getting
sell.
at.
Yeah. So that really is what, 7 full spaces, maybe 8? Yeah.
That's
I have
fantastic.
noticed a few, just a couple times, not really paying attention, I've noticed a couple of what I would call the short church vans, maybe 15 passenger, I'm guessing, parked there, and I would assume that's whatever.
You guys have the short vans, right?
We do get a lot of short van kids.
Okay. So let's keep that in mind.
A lot of them take up space in the half.
Right. So we'll keep that in mind, and then definitely keep the library in mind, particularly for longer buses, because I think that's you got a good open area there.
So they can drive in, drive out.
Right.
And you have to be real careful, cause there are no stop light, right there, Thompson, there is no stop light.
Right.
And there's no, well, that's too far up at the elementary school, but you're gonna have to be real careful when people start utilizing that. And I would think it
Crossing.
would be at railroad days, Christmas.
Right. Okay. Very good. So then, do you think that's a conversation we have as part of multimodal?
I was just thinking, we're leaving mine there, so.
So the crossing and maybe even some type of pedestrian crossing signaling, something like that, could be part of our multimodal
Jamie,
conversation.
Yes.
Dr. Hughes had mentioned that several times about their concern with crosswalks, so, that'll be a big part of that planning part.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Very good. Okay. All right, so plan of action right now is to identify these spots that, first, we can utilize for bus parking. Second, we need to get a number that we think maximum we would need for the course of a decent evening. Is there any other information we need to ascertain? All right, are we good on parking for now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good deal. Now, again, the conversation about the parking lot at Town Hall, we'll try to button that up, Ms. Kim, particularly by the end of the year, so that we can actually start that at the beginning of next year. The conversation about the cones and bus parking, all that stuff, again, we might not actually get through that through January or February, it might go longer. But again, to prepare everybody for what's coming, we're starting that conversation now, okay?
Great conversation.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. Well, in fact, we'll leave this map up while we're talking about roads. Ooh, these work sessions, oh my gosh. Let's go through the list of road concerns. I know, in fact, we'll do it quadrant by quadrant, and we'll start with, this northwest side. I know the first one that's come up, stoplight at the Rudy.
Yes.
While we're talking about it, a stoplight at the Rudy, how do you feel about it as far as being somebody who does business out
I
there?
think it would be very important.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So, that is high on the priority list then, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, I've always wanted to see a stoplight. You know, you blow through there and if they have a show,
That's
it's dangerous. And even during the day, people still will go straight through without even taking a look to the left or the right, and it makes it very dangerous for your patrons.
That's exactly right. So stoplight at the Rudy is a top priority, particularly in the northeast. Let me get my list of notes that I have here. Ooh, quadrant 2. Pelham and Sharp. You live over near Pelham and Sharp, Chief. Every time I go through there, I beg for a 4-way stop. What are your thoughts?
Citizens feel the call for it.
Okay.
Most people run into one sharp anyway, so they probably run to one belt.
Yeah.
I've had a couple close calls right there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the point of 4-way stops isn't necessarily to stop accidents, it's to limit fatality.
It would definitely be good, I mean, it is low, nobody gets too fast in there, but it sure wouldn't hurt. The one that people are really fast on is at Sharp and Pelham and Howell.
Pelham and Howell.
Yes, sir.
So, if we had to choose, would you do Pelham and Sharp or Pelham and Howell? Pelham and Howell.
That's where your speeders are coming from. If they had to stop there, they got to check it, but they're coming around that a lot of walkers. My daughter's car's been hit, we don't park on the road at all anymore for that reason. Drunk, come out and hit it. So
And even on Bennett, I can sit there and I hear it. I hear that black car. And he loves, I mean, he's kind of respectful, but he thinks when he gets out of that curve, he flies to the end of that stoplight. And I thought, God, I'd love to have his car on Tuesdays and Thursdays so I could go to Raleigh and do like he does. But you know, he slows down. He lets you know he's coming.
So, four-way stop at Howell and Pelham.
Yeah, it would actually, I guess it would actually be a three-way stop.
Three-way,
It's
exactly.
T-bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one side's a dead end, but, whatever, she think good.
Okay. So, between those conversations on Pelham, Howell or Sharp Street?
Complaints I received is at, Sharp.
Sharp. Okay. So,
We've had a discussion about Pelham now,
yeah, but you think Sharp would be the way to go?
four-way, because I can tell you that the 3 or 4 complaints I got right at that section.
Okay.
I've also found myself stopping without a stop sign being there.
I do it all the time.
It looks like it should be there.
Yeah, because, I mean, them folks coming from the other way, I know they're coming, so I just stop anyway. Yeah. Okay, so let's stick with the four-way stop at Pelham and Sharp, and then the stoplight at the Rudy Theater. And then, of course, have we had a discussion, have we looked into the decorative poles for the stoplights?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on a quote for all of that, for stoplight, for crossing light.
Okay. But, everybody's okay with us pursuing decorative poles? Absolutely, okay. All right, so that's our, northeast quadrant. Let's look at our northwest quadrant real quick. A lot of interesting things here, particularly speed limit signs on Railroad and Martin Luther King. They are non-existent. We are all good with 25. We felt 20 was not necessary, right?
20 maybe for North Rayford downtown district
For the downtown area.
at that time, but 25, that was
Okay, so let's back,
Railroad and where?
and Martin Luther King. So let's back up to the northeast side here. Let's consider 20 mile per hour for our business district, Rayford Street.
Just right.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Just Rayford, yep.
Is it
What's that?
25 unless posted, correct? Is that what it is?
citywide is 35 unless posted.
Yeah, it's 35. That's right.
Gotcha.
And then, so on Sumner and Railroad Street, we've got an interesting set of stop signs that they stop you on the tracks, which is crazy to me. So, it's funny, I mean, come on. I would say we certainly need to switch those. Is there a reason why they have it that way?
Forever.
Change.
Forever.
Yeah, that, every time I see a truck come through there, I get nervous.
I get it.
Yeah, so on the corner of, at Sumner and Railroad, the stop signs that are around the tracks need to be switched. So that they are on Railroad and on Martin Luther King, not on Sumner. We do also have had a request for a children at play sign at West Anderson Street beyond River Road. So as you're coming past River Road and the speed limit changes, there's been a request for a children at play sign there.
Pass through.
Yep, if you're going down West Anderson toward the middle, yeah. And then, there's also been a request to either trim back the trees around the stop sign at North Massey and West Oak, or put a stop ahead sign of some sort, because apparently nobody on earth knows there's a stop sign there.
Can I jump in?
Absolutely.
Right there on River Road, if you're coming down Oak, you have to stop and you have to creep out onto River Road My car goes about a foot into River Road. There's a church.
River and where?
I wanna say it's, oh, there's a church.
Yeah.
And then
No.
River Road.
The old Holiness Church on the corner.
Yep.
Well, they keep, their bushes have grown
Is it from,
out,
coming from this side or coming from River Road?
coming,
I mean, coming from the terminals?
coming from the terminals.
It's probably been from, what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, it's just, it makes you nervous, cause that bend right there is so dangerous. You just kinda wanna speed up
We
and just go.
We probably do need to town-wide start looking at our turn corners and see what the visibility is on all of them, because we probably have several more spots like that.
Yeah, that's not the only one.
You mentioned it before, and we actually trimmed, I said, she meant Waddell, but we trimmed Waddell pretty good. So I couldn't find what you're talking about.
We've had police cars team up there, so, I mean,
Over at Oak?
exactly.
Wow. Okay,
And we weren't at fault.
that's right. That's
I know
right.
you don't.
That's right. All right, so we'll look into that, because again, as we start getting busier around here, safety first, guys. Safety first. All right, okay, anything else as far as the northwest section is concerned? All right, let's move on. We're gonna go to we'll go to southwest first. So, Preston and South Smithfield, there's been a request for a four-way stop there. I'm not that familiar with that area. Yeah, by the Harrison.
Preston,
Preston's is a straightaway, you got,
Preston was.
Preston's bad already.
They had to have even more on Preston, that's what I thought about.
you got Clark, Harrison, you got a lot of.
Yep, Preston's bad all the way down.
Absolutely. So,
That
so,
would be Smithfield would be a three-way there, right?
no, it'd be four way. Because it goes across at the softball field.
Okay, I'm making the road up.
Yeah, it goes across at the softball field.
Peden is,
So, four-way stop, Preston and South Smithfield, that's the only thing I've heard, particularly in, the southwest quadrant.
you got Peden and,
What's the speed on there? 20, 25?
Of
Speed
what?
limit? 35?
Yeah, on Preston it's 35.
That is so high.
you got
It's
a couple
just
roads
like
on,
going down
on
Anderson.
Preston's.
And 35 on these streets is actually, a lot of times, that is very fast, rather than some of these straight shots.
Just like going down Anderson, it turns into 35. That's really fast
It is.
to me, and I don't,
So is there an appetite to put 25 on Preston?
I don't think it would hurt anything, to be honest.
Okay, so let's also say 25 down Preston as well, and put that four-way stop at Preston, South Smithfield. Okay, because I mean, you're gonna have kids playing over there quite a bit now.
Yes.
You got Clark, you got the pickleball court, stuff going on at Harrison.
Right, absolutely. Okay, very good.
I don't think we should
You know, the
have
stop sign will never,
anywhere in this town.
Yeah, well, you know, of course, Anderson State
all
Road.
the way
State
down to the end of that road.
And then a request on the southeast quadrant for a four-way stop at South Webb and East Watson. So that would break up, in fact, near Public Works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that would break up that stretch through there. That's all I got for signage. Do we have anything else in any of those areas?
You know, I heard somebody say one time, well, we can't have a town of four-way stops, but you're right. It does break things up.
Well, the way I see four-way stops, and I think I've mentioned this before, is if you don't live in the neighborhood, you don't need to be trying to drive through the neighborhood. You use the main road to get to where you need to be, and then when you cut in to get to your house, you hit 2 stop signs, and then you go home. If you have kids, and they're playing in your front yard, you pray somebody put a stop sign on the corner that you're on.
That's right.
So, you know, if making it safer for kids to run around the town of Selma means you gotta slow down to get home every once in a while, so be it.
Just to be aware, council, just for
don't do it, certainly don't do it all at once either. Let's get a plan in place to schedule it, to make sure, first of all, everybody's gonna need to get used to what is
Stop by
changing.
Rudy, I think, Jordan, I have no idea how long that would take, but we can make it happen.
That's the first.
Speed limit signs, that should have already been done. So that should happen pretty quickly. But, we're working on a plan to get all these reds and bushes of river. That'll happen pretty quick.
Yeah. But yeah, particularly for the stop signs, let's just schedule it slowly but surely, okay? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know, do we want the galvanized at the state? What, is that the one with the metal arm that goes across?
Yeah, kinda like that.
Well, while we're talking about it, so you've got the decorative poles that we currently have are just the decorative pole and then the string that hangs across?
So you got two you can look at, right here, circle
Yeah.
turf, that's what he's talking about with the horn.
With the arm?
And then what we have at Waddell, in Rayford, that will be the decorative poles with the wire.
You guys wanna take a look real quick? What do you want?
Cheap,
Hmm?
the cheapest.
Ooh, we'll go with what we have.
I don't wanna do that cheap. I don't wanna go that cheap.
So we wanna stick with the decorative black poles with the wire going across.
What, how long is your order, how long would it take you to get them?
The decorative ones take a lot longer, as soon as I get a price and order, it'll be a year.
Okay. But,
You
But if
were
we want,
starting
in the time being, we'll do what we have here.
are you guys okay with putting up a temporary wood
Yes.
pole in the
Yeah.
meantime?
I'll get some lights over.
Business owner business worker on the corner of Rudy, is that cool?
It's already home, wooden home there.
Yeah, so temporary wooden poles, you wouldn't mind?
You're gonna six more, temporary,
Whatever you think.
all long term.
Yeah, go ahead and get it done, and then we'll be ready for the decorative.
When you get the poles, you
That's right.
switch them out.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah,
Good deal.
thank you.
All right, so what else do we need to touch base on? We've got, council application process. We need to talk about applying for this. Is that everything we need for the road discussion? Okay, good stuff. We'll have a deeper discussion about paving at another time. I think we got some good information from USDA that we need to explore, and then we'll touch base on that.
Thank y'all all for your input on that, thank you.
Yeah, what's up, bud?
I wanna ask a few things.
Come on. We got time.
These are things I'm just noticing as I'm walking through the alleys and weed eating and picking up trash and stuff like that. First of all, thank y'all for everything you do, and you wanna make everything.
Is this like a public works to-do list?
Kind of a few little things I'd like to just ask, but you wanna do it later?
You said we
Just see you? Okay, thank you.
I'd much rather have a text or email.
Yeah, if you tell us the council, we're not gonna remember, and he's just gonna take the same note anyway, so. Let's see here. So, we have gotten our applications in for the application period for our vacant town council seat. And so we need to actually discuss the process on how we want to approach this. But first, I actually do want to read off the list of names that we've had apply. And if you feel you have turned in an application before August 31st, and your name is not read off this list of names I'm about to read off, please get in touch with us ASAP. But otherwise, as of August 31st, applications for appointment to the town council, we have Miss Susan Watson, we've got Miss Ruth Ray, we have Mr. Richard Nixon, we have Miss Chandrell Watson, we have Dr. Brittany McCoy, we have Mr. Troy LaPlante, we have Mr. Don Barker. Is that all the applications that we know of? Okay. Absolutely. So we do have the applications in hand. The next step, I believe, council, not unless there's something else you'd like to do, we need to have staff actually go through these applications and make sure they're all eligible to be on town council. There are some stipulations that you have to fit within to be on town council. So before we start trying to even deliberate on our individual time, we need to make sure of who is eligible to be on council. So staff, if you will, take these applications, make sure they're eligible, based on Board of Election rules to be a member of the Selma Town Council. And then I just say we revisit this in October when we see, all the eligible applications. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
That'll work.
Good to go, staff? All right.
Thank y'all.
There's a list of applicants, fantastic. And then, last but certainly not least, as far as our discussions are concerned, Historic Preservation Commission. We have had, quite frankly, a hard time over this last calendar year getting a quorum for Historic Preservation Commission. I'm not sure, maybe the members that are currently on there have a lot going on, but I also think part of it is we only have so many people to do the volunteer work of the government of the town of Selma. So in doing my research with our general statutes, I've come across the fact that we can possibly lump our historic preservation duties into our current Appearance Commission. Our Appearance Commission has had a quorum at every meeting. They seem to be getting lots of information to us and getting things done. We see a lot of pretty things popping up around town because of them. I do think historic preservation, as far as our certificates of appropriateness and most of the things that they're concerned about, deal with the appearance of historic structures in the first place. So it's my recommendation to the board that we, with the adjustment of the bylaws, lump the historic preservation duties, the duties of the Historic Preservation Commission into our Appearance Commission to A, make sure we can get the work of historic preservation done, and B, save us the headache of having to cobble more people together for a Historic Preservation Commission.
So when you say the HPC, how many is actually showing up, not making a
The last meeting, we had one human being show up.
just one?
The meeting before that, we had two. And generally, on average, it's the same three folks that we're missing.
So if those two wanted to move on to the new one, could they do that?
Nope, the Appearance Commission is full. Now, we do have, the members that have shown up are currently on other boards. I think maybe one might not be, but I would certainly have a discussion with those members who are certainly showing up before we made any change. We could possibly make a change on Tuesday if you guys wanna go ahead and get the ball rolling. And I say we might need to because we have a lot of historic preservation stuff that needs to get figured out in short order. And it just hasn't gotten figured out because we can't get a quorum.
Is
I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Is, you said that the Appearance Committee is maxed out now?
They are maxed out as far as in-town residents. We are missing 2 ETJ.
I was seeing, you say you got two people from the historic properties.
So the folks that show up from historic properties, the chair is the one lone wolf that was here last week. But I believe the chair of historic preservation is also on the plan.
So, but do we have a maximum number of people on each committee?
So on the historic preservation, we do have 5 currently without the and no ETJ. So there's no ETJ for the historic preservation. We have 5 on appearance, and it's 7 with the ETJ members, but we have no ETJ members for appearance as well.
And that's the maximum number you,
That is the number.
but you
we've
got
set
2
for it.
people on that historic property.
But I'll be honest with you, the way I see it, we're in a situation where we're stretching people thin. I would prefer not to have people serving on multiple boards if we don't have to anyway. But the more boards we have, the more we create this situation. You know, we lumped library into Parks and Recs as we joined those departments because, again, the library board was barely meeting and those functions overlap just the same. I don't think there are that many people in a town this size to volunteer so that we need 45 people from the boards.
And my thing was, I would really hate to say guys on historic property they want to serve and we say it's abandoned, you lose those people in those spots.
Well, we've got on the Historic Preservation Commission, one of those members is actually on the Appearance Commission as well.
So I just saying, I don't wanna lose the knowledge that's there to a new committee. Got to relearn, retrain.
I'll be honest with you, and I'm just gonna be frank, cause I don't mince words. I don't think they've learned much of anything anyway, to be honest with you. We're still waiting for guidelines to put into our ordinances for historic preservation in the first place. I don't think we're gonna be losing much. And frankly, the couple that don't show up, clearly, we're not worried about putting them on other boards in the first place. I think there might be a conversation with one who has been showing up that needs to be had, but, you know, I would personally have that conversation and just make sure there wouldn't be any real heartache there. But I think we're really only worried about one member that has been ready to show up. Everybody else has been wasting our time, to be honest.
And just as long as the appearance committee, and it would, or this would not even be a discussion, if they're able to have, what do we used to call it on historic properties? Sometimes you would have, where you'd have to be sworn in, and
Yeah,
the.
quasi judicial hearings.
Right, and the appearance committee is also able to do that.
Absolutely.
So, I think this is it's a smart idea.
Appreciate it. I think that, again, with the amount of historic preservation stuff that's coming in right now, and the amount of permits that are being held up because we can't get a quorum from a preservation commission, I think we need to go ahead and make a move.
I agree.
Yes.
So, as part of, and we'll get into this with our, agenda discussion, we'll probably add a bylaws discussion. Because while we're at it, we might as well polish up all of our bylaws, going forward. Actually, with that, we do also have, we had the conversation about polishing up the tourism bylaws as well. Because we wanted to make adjustment to the membership of the tourism, committee as well. So let's add remind me to make sure we add bylaws discussion to this agenda, okay? All right. And while we're at it, let's take a look at our agenda and, get through this. This is, we've blown out our hour, I apologize. I'm very sorry. It happens. So for our agenda, we've got a lengthy one, and I commend Leanne for putting in some grueling work, and I also feel bad because we're probably gonna put most of this on consent.
So are you gonna keep 9,
9,
the board recommendations?
no, we'll change that into, actually, we'll change that number 9A. We're gonna move that into business items as bylaws update. And as I'm looking over it, just as a note as well, the Constitution Week proclamation, though, we'll move that up to your, recognitions presentations as well. Yeah. We'll put that behind, 6A though, cause that 6A is a big one. That's a big one.
Yes.
So put that 6B for the Constitution Week. Let's see, what else?
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me give you a list of all the things that I think we need to probably throw on consent. And then let me make sure I get council's druthers on this. Parent code of conduct. Anybody have any heartburn about that? That certainly can go to consent. Council, have we had time to look at the JCC agreement?
I have,
All right.
I was
Well-
waiting for changes on the agendas.
Let's, we'll leave that on business items for now, but we'll consider putting it on consent when we get to Tuesday.
Okay.
Pickleball RFQ award, do we wanna move that to consent? Do we wanna read through it, wait before we do that?
Let's consent it.
Yeah, I'd say consent it. It's not rocket science on that one. Electric 250 financing award. You getting a 250?
I can give you a short
And just to clarify for the public, financing award means who we awarded the financing to for these vehicles as far as the bank is concerned. Who's financing these pieces of equipment for us. So, do we consent all that? So all the financing award stuff, we can consent that. This is certainly stuff we told you to get going on getting our equipment cleaned up. That is excellent. Train station roof bid award.
This was carried on for a while. This probably should have came to you in July. So it was held up for some staff issues, but, we had two bids, actual bids, and one bid. Finally, it's just took a while to get them all in. It's Western, I can't remember the name of them, but they were well under. So, that's completely a deal with presented.
Just a question on that. You talking about the whole thing? The whole roof?
No, and I'm playing catch up here, so we'll put my best shot. The amount awarded would not cover the roof. Because they just went outrageous. The first time we went out to bids, we were like millions off from lead plus. So the engineers came back together and looked at another solution. It's basically gonna, in my words, it's gonna wrap the parapets and come up under, which is where the leaks are at. And then piecemeal the other spots. Because the middle of the roof is in great shape, because that material that I would call, excuse me, copper. But no, it's not covered over,
So, do you know when the last time the new roof was on there?
early 2000s.
2000?
Yeah, early 2000, I don't know the year. Chief told us about, you remember, Chief, I mean, it was when they renovated that train station. 0102 ball game,
Okay, that's good.
yeah, somewhere in that ball game.
Yeah,
And you gotta bear in mind, this is funding that we received.
I understand.
Yeah, so this is, in the
We're
conversation.
doing about all of it.
Yeah, the conversation is just for the public's sake, is that we have taken the funding that we have been awarded to do the work on the train station roof and fit it into a scope that we can actually afford. And this is going to be awarding that work to a group that bidded it for the project. So,
There's a second part of this, Councilman Overy, there's a second part to this, project, which is the interior that was damaged from the water. We wanna get this knocked out before we start fixing water damage.
Okay.
consent,
Sounds good.
consent,
It's been all explained.
that's right. I would, for now, want to leave the personnel policy on there, cause I haven't had a chance to really clearly look at it, but if we do get a chance to look at it and everybody's comfortable, we might move that to consent.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
yeah, the ARPA
Let me
policy,
explain now. If you-
I don't mind, knock it out.
These were supposed to be done when ARPA funds first came out in 21-ish. I don't know why they weren't done. But they were requested for our audit, so we're scrambling to get these done. They are boilerplate from the feds. We took the blanks out, put town settlement in, they had been reviewed by our attorney. So we're glad to go through each and every ongoing one of them for you.
Nope. Consent, everybody good?
Yeah.
And this is a reminder, thanks to staff for cleaning up some of the mistakes of the past. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
AFG award acceptance.
I'll brag a little bit, but
Yeah, go ahead, knock it out.
that's a, assistant firefighter grant, that we worked on earlier in the year, and it is $154,000, to replace our CBA air packs.
We're gonna consent that?
Yeah.
All right. North Drainage Study Resolution, that one seems straightforward. So we can consent
I
that?
seen that.
Yep. Golden Leaf Resolution, anybody have any problems with, getting money from Golden Leaf?
No, not at all.
Consent.
Consent
Money,
that.
money's green.
That's right, we'll take it.
O can come out, can
We do need to actually look at the water sewer operations agreement, so we will leave that on the business items.
How about,
What is street
how
sign?
about,
Street sign.
street sign?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm gonna, I've got a sign for you.
have an idea of how we're actually putting these things on poles?
Yes, sir. We've got, I don't have something to hold in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a order form that shows that the Beers Commission has already seen it. But they're gonna mount
90-degree?
90 degree like this.
Stop signs on the
This
post
is
too?
The same thing, yeah, the sign will be over the stop signs.
Mhm.
It's,
So let's bring that, order piece, bring the actual sign, cause we want the public to see this, we'll leave it on there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that catch. Thank you for that catch. And then, so, and again, that water sewer operations agreement, do leave that on there as well, we need to discuss. But police car financing, I think everybody's cool with that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We good?
It's just at the bottom, because we got that one in later, cars came in a lot quicker than we thought, so that we get it just right before.
Kudos to you guys for getting those orders in proper, thank you.
Good.
So we'll consent that, absolutely. And then we have a organizational chart to discuss, and then whatever else comes about, on that day. The athletic sponsorship package,
Sir.
the athletic sponsorship package, what does that cover?
So it is 3 different,
It's the top,
At the top.
10A.
programs
10A.
that Nikki and I have worked on for businesses. It's different opportunities for them to sponsor either an individual team or donate or, money to the Parks and Rec department and we would promote their business. So it's a couple different options for businesses on there.
If you remember back in the day, every ball team had a,
Name on the
Charles
jersey.
Good Shop, and
Mhm.
the Rudy Theater on the back of the jersey.
Oh, yeah.
It's been pushed, the rec board approved it, so.
We can get that on the, we can get those on our sign, I mean, on digital.
Oh, yeah, I'll do. Do we wanna consent that sponsorship, or do we need to take a close look?
It's kinda cut and dry to me.
Y'all can always pull this off if you see it, when you,
Yeah,
your
we
agenda, if you see something over the weekend you don't like.
Yeah, I'm okay with consent.
Yeah, let's
'Cause
consent
I
that.
did read that one.
You did? Okay, yeah, let's
I did.
consent that. No, we're good. Okay. Anything else that we need to look at on this agenda? And then we are adding the bylaws discussion. And actually, let me actually make a correction here. So for that sign, street sign approval, we need to put that under board recommendations, because that's something that, the appearance commission, sent up as a recommendation.
Prefer the chairman of, we talked about this before, the chairman to present that versus staff. We get in trouble.
Yeah, you're trying to get me in trouble. But that is a good idea. Let's not do it this go round.
I got it back.
You set me up, brother. No, and actually, we probably do need to start heading that direction there, cause we do want the board to, we do want the boards to really express their thoughts on all these things. But yeah, so let's move that to board recommendations, and then, of course, that bylaws conversation will be in business items. Is there anything else, council? Everything look good there?
Will we have a closed session then?
We will have a closed session on Tuesday because we have to discuss the, order of demolition.
Okay. Alright. I'm good.
Anything else? Well, we're good on the agenda. Staff, do we have anything else that we need to touch base on?
Just wanna remind everybody that when we leave here, Old State Food Hall.
That's right.
Open to,
Spirit Night meets at 9 p.m.
9 PM.
your support the Parks and Rec, they get a percentage of your $5,000.
So Old North State Food Hall is hosting Parks and Rec Spirit Night tonight. Get there before 9 PM and a portion of your purchase will go to Selma Parks and Recreation.
Other than that, NFL football.
Yes, sir.
Oh, go watch the game at Old North State Food Hall and buy something. We good to go? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.